Welcome back, everybody. SJJMAS number 33. Nothing Masonic about it. It just happens to be that way. We've done so many streams this Christmas. We're on number 33 in about 2 weeks. So, very exciting stuff. Accept no cheap imitations. This is the real deal. You made it to the right show. And today I've got Æthelred, who is, I believe, a Twitter. What would you say? You're a political advocate on Twitter?
Well, I'm a white well-being advocate for Western kind, and I'm on X on the X platform.
Okay. So hit me with it. What does that mean? I'm guessing I'm vaguely aware of Jason Coney. Is that how you say his name? And No White Guilt channel. Are you like a disciple of his? Because it sounds like his terminology.
Um, I'm a di- I wouldn't use the word disciple.
Okay.
I'd say
Well,
that
yeah.
yeah. So I'd say that I'm basically an advocate for white well-being um, in the way that I wish to end all anti-white discrimination against all of Western kind, and I basically want the well-being for Western kind, basically. But that's pretty much what it is, and that involves working towards ending all anti-white policies, moral frameworks that discriminate against Western kind on the basis of race.
Okay. It's some interesting terminology though. So, would you say it's Jason Coney who is that how I say his name? I don't want to get it wrong.
Jason Cohen, yes. So Jason,
Cone.
um, absolutely,
He's he's come up with this terminology of white well-being and Western and using why Western kind and not the West or white people or what's the framing here?
well, for example, Western kind, there is no Western kind without white people. Basically, we are Western kind. It lives within us. It's within uh, our consciousness. It's within our souls. And so Western civilization is basically an expression, a creative expression of Western kind. And obviously, there is no Western civilization without Western kind, i.e., white people. So, obviously, working towards the well-being of our people,
Excuse me,
is
sorry.
morally good. Is morally good. Problem is that anti-whiteism is immoral, and it's entered into the moral framework of Western kind, and it's almost like it's become morally acceptable to discriminate against white people on the basis of race, whether it's through the media, whether it's through DEI policies in the workplace, education, academia, every single institution throughout the West, basically. And I wish to put an end to that. And that doesn't mean discriminating against other people on the basis of their race. There's thousands of people, that have groups that serve Jewish well-being, Asian well-being, Hispanic well-being. I'm doing what is best for white well-being. And I noticed that for many, many years, that we've been discriminated against, and I came across Jason Cohn, No White Guilt, many years ago, probably about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to find out, what is the problem? What's actually going on? Why are young children told that, that they're descendants from an evil people that are only worthy of redemption by working towards erasing their own kind, and it's sad because we have children, that are taught to hate themselves on the basis of their birth. They're taught to feel guilty, and that's child abuse, and I believe that's morally unacceptable. Um, so when I started to watch Jason's videos, I started to understand where this, how anti-whiteism affects us and where it comes from. It's an ideology, like any hateful, immoral ideology, and furthermore, I found a solution on how to use moral concepts to bring about a greater morality of the West, so that we'd be able to defend ourselves against the anti-white discrimination that is harming our people. And so that's kind of really how I found Jason's site, and I started watching his YouTube channels, and he became an inspiration. Not just Jason, but many of his followers, that have adopted, the moral concepts of Go Three, and it's inspired my life. Obviously, it's not just about kind of putting an end to anti-whiteism, but it's also about our well-being, and improving our own lives. Because I was living in a time where, especially in England, for example, I live in England, where people were going out protesting, against mass immigration, all of these things. A lot of people were getting into trouble, committing acts of crime, and and then obviously on the media the next day, it'll be plastered over the media, or racist, Englishmen, protest and things like that, and that is the anti-white narrative. And I wanted to know how we could stop this, is by putting an end to the villainous acts of that a lot of our people turn to because they feel hopeless. They feel they have nowhere to go. So some people get angry and commit acts of crime, and that is morally unacceptable. And I want to put an end to that as well. And the only way forward, I believe, is by encouraging our people not to act in villainous ways that would harm our people and harm other people on the basis of their race. So I believe white well-being is good for everyone. You know what I mean? It's good for white people. It's good for, non-whites.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
All right. Well, we'll get to the solution. I'm intrigued. You say you think you've got a solution. I'm intrigued. Very few people ever come to me and say, I've not got some decent ideas. Most people who come to me are black-pilled. They're doomers. They believe it's all over. They've given up to some extent, or they're waiting for a complete societal collapse, and they think, power cutting a chimp out is the way out of this, or whatever. So, I take it you're not a doomer. You're not black-pilled. You do believe that there's a way out of this. Yeah.
Absolutely, I absolutely do, and I believe the only real forward is to end the ideology of anti-whiteism, because it affects the well-being of people. It affects their their mentality, their spirit, affects them physically. Yep. Because when people are feeling guilty because of their birth basically, and who they are, they go into depression, and it's not good for the well-being of our people. But I also believe that, and I've seen it for myself, I'm a product, of white well-being, because it's definitely improved my life. Because there was a time where I was feeling guilty for my own identity. I was feeling, depressed, and I was feeling hopeless. And when I started to use the moral concepts of no white guilt, I started to kind of improve my life. I started to, I had a lot of anger in me as well, and that started to lift because I started to realize that, if I'm angry and I'm resentful towards another race, all that that's going to do is destroy my spirit, and it's not going to stop me from improving my own well-being. So it's even helped me to get rid of that, and it's put me in a much more positive position than I was 10 years ago. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's definitely working for me, and I've seen it work for many others as well. You know,
Yeah, don't take this the wrong way. What somebody's called it like a cult, Kone cult. I mean, if he's doing good, what do you think about that? I mean, yeah, in a weird
I
way.
believe.
Yeah, let
I
me just
believe.
frame this. When you come here, like, I mean, you're probably the first, but like, I've done what are we on? 33 interviews. You're probably the first person who's come to use these like phrases. So I think they stand out, and so somebody might say this, like it's Jason Coney's cult. Don't take that the wrong way. What would you say about that? Whether it's
I
good or
don't
bad?
believe so at all. I think I know certainly for myself, because I've also been on receiving end of a lot of envy and jealousy, and
Yeah.
and it happens. It's people have slandered Jason, and also myself, even for really just wanting what's best for white well-being.
Yeah.
And these are from other groups that are the so-called nationalists that claim to care about the well-being of our people. And I believe Jason is doing. He's genuinely just wants what is best for all of Western kind, not just Americans, but all of Western kind. And so yeah, there are some people that would say that, but I'm used to it. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't really pay too much attention to those people, because I'm more concerned with the well-being of our people more than anything else. Do you know what I mean? But I have compassion for those people
Sure.
as well.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. It reminds me, in a way, hearing somebody with phrases that you use. I think you're using them because you believe that this, it's what was it? Who's that guy? Some rabbit thing. He came up with this phrase about white genocide. Have you heard this guy? Way back in the day, and
Yeah, I
he
have.
said
Yes, I've heard of
we
it.
need to repeat the mantra. He said. So when I hear you guys come along, I think like there's kind of a mantraness to it. You believe that getting these words out there, getting these ideas out there in kind of a mantra form, gets the message across. Is that right?
I have heard that from. There's plenty. I think a few neo-Nazi groups I've heard that from, but I don't really tend to associate with those people because I find them to be a very
Okay,
toxic
interesting.
and harmful. And also many of those groups that I've heard that from. Are,
Tim Murdoch, yeah, that's the guy who pushes
yeah.
that.
Um, I have no. Obviously, I don't know that person
White
personally,
Rabbit
but I
Radio,
know
yeah.
that I just know that where I've heard those things from, and the thing is, it's like anything, these words, these slogans, and things like that have been tried for, for probably more than 50 years. I know that I've definitely. I mean, I'm coming up to what, nearly 43, and those. I was hearing that when I was 15, so and
Yeah.
those things they kind of, when they was new around, they kind of did have a little bit of an impact. But to be honest with you, we've gone what 20, 30 years down the line now, and I think it's pretty pointless, trying the same old tested things that have been tried over and over again that have failed, really.
Yeah.
You, when we talk about genocide, we're talking about people being blown to pieces, being completely exterminated. What we're facing is white erasure. We're facing, which is driven by an anti-white ideology. We're facing the erasure of our history, our culture, you know, it, and our people.
It's like a
That's what, and it's happening on
it's
a
a
slope.
yeah, it's a dissolving, really, isn't it? This was my problem when I
It,
heard the
it's, a,
white genocide.
it's an illness, yes.
When I heard the white genocide term, and you put it to normies, they can't comprehend it. They think of a genocide as being Rwanda with machetes, and if you put them that like white people are being genocide, they're just like you're mental. I don't get it. This isn't Rwanda. So I'm not a fan of the white
Well, to be honest
genocide
with you,
term,
I
but
think
yeah,
no, absolutely not. I think if you have a look at Palestine, they're being genocided right now. But let's keep this on the well-being. I mean, they have thousands of
sure,
groups also that are representing their people. But let's keep this towards our people,
yeah,
Western kind, and and try and stay on that topic. But yes, I absolutely agree with you. It's outdated, but if people want to use it, I have no problem with that. If they want to do what they feel works for them, I just know that in my experience, it hasn't worked for me and many others that
yeah.
I know. So
Yeah, obviously Jason isn't here. You're just like somebody who has been inspired by his points, but I'm vaguely aware of Jason and his splits with some of the other groups. Is this a tactical thing? Is this that he believes that other advocates, other people going down, like on the dissident right, on the old alt right, that they are treading a foolish path, that they're wrong? What is his disagreements, or maybe if you can't speak for
I
him,
can't
your
I can't
disagreements
speak for
with
Jason.
what is your
I
disagreements
personally
then
can't
with how
speak for
other
Jason.
people on the dissident right are doing things? What do you think people have got wrong in their activism?
I think I mean, I was in nationalism for many years myself, and but
Yes.
I think, yeah, absolutely, and I think this idea that we're just going to completely remove everyone from our country, every single migrant, is unrealistic. Whilst we're in whilst we're facing um, the immorality of Western kind, we first of all we need to fix the morality of Western kind before we go even think about going on down that road. Because the reason why I say that is um, because our people are suffering from a lot of white guilt, a lot of they've been taught to hate themselves, and a lot of it is through a young age. And until we can address this problem and put an end to that, a lot of it's psychological as well. I don't think anybody's going to vote for any party that's going to, on a mass level, that's going to carry out those actions. Because
No.
also we need to understand that a lot of the laws and moral frameworks and things like that are in our institutions, in Parliament, for example, would never allow that to happen. We have over here in the United Kingdom, it's hard enough to remove um, illegal migrants, let alone non-white migrants. So it's 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 not realistic at this point. I do believe eventually we can reclaim our destiny, but in order for that to happen, we need to go free. I believe our people need to go free from this white guilt and this anti-white sickness that has infected them. I truly believe that, because if not, if you don't have a strong foundation, it's like anything; it won't work. You know what I mean? You know, um, I can't really speak for any different nationalist parties. But that obviously there's a lot of people that have policies and they want mass deportation and things like that. I'm in agreement with that, absolutely. But I just don't believe it's realistic at this point. I believe, I believe the moral framework of the West needs to be sorted out first. And you know what I mean.
Yeah. So
People, I
you
believe
sound
our
like
people need to. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So you sound like somebody who you don't think that perfect should be the enemy of good. This is what somebody brought up to me the other day. A lot of people believe. I think like we were infected with this meme in 2016 of aiming for an ethno state, and people believed that we were going to get this overnight, and things have got a lot worse ever since. And now they're like, if I can't have that, I'm a doomer. I don't believe there's any way of affecting any real change. I've given up. I'm getting out, or I'm just waiting for the collapse. How do you convince somebody who, like, has given up, who believes it's all over? How do you get them out of this mindset? I had somebody on. He's a good lad. You know, really like him on my last stream. Really good lad. But he's a young 24-year-old. He believes there's no political solution. There's no way of changing things. And it's, well, actually, it's like he's decided to get out himself. He's currently like in Mexico.
Yeah, I've got a lot of friends actually that have moved to Thailand. You know, they decided, you know, there's no hope for the West, and they've given up and decided to. I'd say to those people, and they decided to move on. I'll say to those people, our ancestors never gave up. You know, our ancestors, we wouldn't be here if our ancestors did give up. Western kinds, you know, England, for example, the United Kingdom, we've gone through many battles. We've gone through periods of darkness, you know, through the darkest times throughout history. But our ancestors, they kept on moving forward. They kept on, you know, they took the baton, so we didn't have to. I believe for people like that to give up, if you're going to give up, then not only have you betrayed your ancestors, but you've also betrayed yourself and the future of your children, if you do have children, that is. But I would encourage them never ever to give up. I don't believe in giving up at all. Absolutely not. I believe there is a way forward. And I know certainly right now the United Kingdom and all of Western kind is facing a very dark period of time. Okay. But we cannot give up. For me to give up is to give up on the future generations of my children's children and leave them absolutely hopeless, rendered completely powerless. If we give up now, there is no future for Western kind. It will be completely erased. Our history will be erased. Everything will be erased, and Western kind will no longer exist. And all that will be remembered, and all that will be shown on the media and the news, you know, none of our inventions would even be mentioned. Nothing. It would be completely gone. And that is the seriousness of you know, for those people who do give up. But I say I'd encourage them, and I'd encourage them to jump on board with white well-being, and you know, because white well-being it will help with that helplessness. Because I felt like giving up. Honestly, didn't feel like there was any hope. I spent 25 years as a British nationalist advocating, trying to do everything I could, but there was something missing, and I didn't know what it was. And I found out what's missing now, and I've been given hope. You know.
Right, well, let's get to it. What is the solution then, bro? Let's hit me with it, and then I'll ask you some other stuff. What is it? A political solution? Is it an internal solution? What are you speaking of? That is this future, like, what do we do? Tell me what to do.
So the solution, first of all, is to go free, and to convince our people to go free from the guilt, from the ideology that teaches them that they're descendants of an evil people, you know, and they're only worthy of redemption by working towards erasing their own kind. So the solution would be to and I'd say this to anyone who's listening right now, is to is to go onto the website, check out No White Guilt, all right, and order a copy, you know, of Aligning Western Kind, the Architecture of Western Kind, written by Jason Good. That will be a good start. That's not the be all and end all for our solution, you know. And then to understand and learn the moral concepts of that book, to implement them in our lives, and to share them with other people in order to combat anti-whiteism, and because anti-whiteism, the ideology, it's infected the folk soul of our people, the very bio spirit of our people. So it's deeply embedded within the minds of our people and within the soul. And that's done, a lot of it's done through media. When our people are constantly watching, you know, on the media, for example, like Netflix and things like that, that the English people didn't build build England, that sub-Saharan Africans built England. If they're watching that all the time, being taught lies, and false history and things like that, and then on top of that, they're told that that they're slave owners, and their ancestors were slave owners, even though the Western kind abolished slavery. Do you know what I mean? It was practiced from right from the beginning of dawn. We need to end that mindset. We need to end that immorality, because it's not a norm, but it's become a normality of Western kind. It's not normal to abuse a child and tell them that they're descendants from an evil people and that they should feel guilty. We need to end that. And the way we do that is by going through and by using the moral concepts of the lexicon, which Jason and many others have developed, basically. And as well as that, obviously, connecting to other people, building a community, people feel safe around their own people, communicating with each other, building each other up. Anti-whiteism started way before non-whites came to our countries. It started when we started to harm each other. It started when we started to, have wars with each other, brothers' wars, needless brothers' wars. That all needs to stop. We cannot afford to fight each other. We cannot afford to do any of that. When I think about what's happening, with the war against Russia and Ukraine, those people are killing each other. That needs to stop. So what we need to do is we need to rebuild the moral framework, okay, and I found a strong foundation, and then from that we can work up throughout our institutions. So we would have people that would, that would go through and become advocates of white well-being, then go on to be lawyers. They can advocate for our people that are legally discriminated against on the basis of their race. All of these things that should be the morality of the West, but for some reason it's not. And then obviously from that we can build a political institution that advocates for our people, and then we can go on, to obviously make anti-whiteism illegal here in the United Kingdom. That's what I'd like to see, because it isn't. How many people do we know that are being discriminated against, or even violently attacked, for example? And those people aren't charged with an anti-white hate crime, and they're sent to prison and let out after a few years. We need to end all of that. Do you know?
I mean, it supposedly is, though, isn't it? I mean, isn't like the Equalities Act supposed? I mean, I hate. I'm no fan of it. But isn't that like that? Isn't that part of the problem? Why we're here, where we are? I mean, I had somebody on the other day, Phil, and we were arguing about liberalism, and we kind of agree that we are here. That at the time that, like, liberals were, figuring out society or whatever, it all seemed like a good intentions, best intentions, and in many ways it is the spirit of the Englishman to be unmolested, to want representation, to want fairness under the law for everybody. But we are kind of here now, decades later, after minorities have collectivized within our freedoms, and they're like wielding them against us, and now we're like so far down the line. Do you think that liberalism itself has led to where we are today? Would you want to rail back liberalism? And
liberalism is a symptom of anti-whiteism. Basically, obviously, when we talk about equality, So equality really is the demand of the loser to the handicapped. So basically, losers demand equality, right? And they artificially use this to stand on the moral high ground to conceal their self-serving nature of their demand. So when we talk about equality, for example, in the workplace, let's talk about that. To morally, I remember it wasn't so long ago, last year actually. I remember looking at a newspaper. I think it was the Guardian. I think it was a Guardian anyway. And there was a recruitment in there asking to specifically hire non-whites for a job as a working in a pet
Yeah.
in a vets basically, and they call that equality really, but it's not equality. There's nothing, it's for their self-serving nature. It doesn't serve white well-being, does it? When a white man, an Englishman, applies for a job and they're told that they can't have it on the basis of their race because they want that job to go to a non-white, that's discrimination against white people. So that these terms like equality and things like that are used, for anti-whites to for their own self-serving nature. So that also needs to end. Absolutely.
What about
And
cynics?
it's been put into the market.
What about cynics in the chat who'd say, Æthelred, that hasn't Jared Taylor tried all this and it's not been successful?
Jared Taylor, I don't really know who he is, to be honest with you. But
Yeah, Jared Taylor's an American.
Okay,
American
has he tried?
American Renaissance.
Oh, okay. Is he a liberal or anti-white or what political
No.
position does he hold? Oh, right. Okay.
He
Yeah, go on.
yeah, he's basically been in America for decades, pointing out the differences between races, particularly between his focus was particularly on blacks in America and crime stats, and trying to do that. There's differences between groups, biological differences, and we should realize that we should aim for like self-determination and all this kind of stuff, and it's kind of fallen on flat ears, deaf ears.
Yeah. Okay. So
I think what you're telling me is you don't focus on the problems of other groups. You just think we should just aim.
so basically
You're
we
not
should
focused
focus
on that, are
on
you?
yeah. So we should focus on the well-being of our own people, really, because those groups they have people that advocate for black well-being. And we should keep
Yes.
it. I believe I should keep it to the white well-being, but I understand where this sickness comes from. So both non-whites, anti-whites, and white anti-white sickness comes from the same place. It comes from envy and jealousy. You know, so when they look at the grandeur of Western kind and our history, all right, a lot of people and the beauty that we've created and our ancestors created, a lot of not all, but a lot of non-white anti-whites, they feel jealous, you know. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
because they're not inheritors of that, they're not inheritors of our history. They're not inheritors of what we've created, and some will even go on to try and destroy what we've created. And the problem is with that then turns into, it makes us feel uncomfortable. It makes us feel unharmonious. So we don't feel in harmony with each other. That is not normal, because what happens is it creates conflict amongst other groups. Not everyone's like that. Now white anti-whites, obviously, they've been infected with a lot of white guilt, so they have a lot of self-hatred for themselves, and they don't see themselves as part of our people, you know. So that's why they do everything
No.
they can to try and
Do you think they do it to
destroy it.
conform, or do you think they really are deeply infected with white guilt and they believe they've like inculcated this idea of that they're like they have
Yeah,
historical
so
white supremacy?
I think another that's another term that is used. White supremacy is the language of white oppression, basically. And so a lot of these people have fed all of these anti-white slurs like racist, homophobe, you know, and things like that for people who generally don't hate other people, you know, and they do
Yeah.
it basically to anybody, yeah, who isn't anti-white enough. So, for example, if I want to advocate for the well-being of my people without harming any others, because you know that's not my intention, really. I just want what's best for white well-being. So I will somehow be called a racist. That's just an anti-white slur that anti-whites use to demonize Western kind for not
Yeah.
being anti-white enough. So I get it. I understand where that comes from, you know, and you know, and but I think with white people, especially, are deeply infected with a lot of white guilt from a young age because of the anti-white ideologies pushed in the media and things like that. I think we can help those people, and there's a lot of people actually that are in part of the white well-being group that have gone to know white guilt and have become free from that. And I've watched these people, and it's wonderful to see somebody who's spent pretty much their whole entire life hating themselves, you know, wanting what is worst for their own well-being and the well-being of their own people, become completely free from that, and then go on to serve white well-being. It's absolutely amazing. So there is hope for people out there. I'd just say for anybody to get through to those people, it's like anything, you know, we have absolutely no control over what other people are going to do. I don't have any control over whether somebody wants to be an anti-white or not. They choose to be anti-white if they choose that way of life. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's up to everyone, really, if they want to be an immoral anti-white or whether they want to serve white well-being, which is really good for everyone, you know. So it's a question of morality, really. What do you want? Do you want to hate yourself as a white man, or you know, and hate your own people, or do you
So
want what's best? You know.
so what about people like I assume you hang around the dissident right, so you're familiar with all the characters on the dissident right. People who are already like red pilled about the situation, about the demographic collapse, and that. Are you preaching to them, or are you trying to bring in
Well,
people
well,
normies? What's your
I'm
audience?
preaching it to everyone because everyone's affected. So I'll give you an example. There's a lot of anti-whiteism within the right wing, and there's also a lot of anti-whiteism in the left. You know, so it's not a political ideology; it's an anti-white ideology that affects us in many different ways. So I'm speaking to all of our people, whether they're on the right or left. Doesn't matter what politics they hold, or you know, the main important thing is obviously going free from that sickness. You know, so that they can go on to live, you know, meaningful lives and go on to have healthy relationships. You know, and serve the best way that they can in their jobs, you know, in their families and you know, and all of that kind of stuff. You know, I speak to those people who would like that, you know, who'd be inspired and would want that for themselves and their family, really, you know.
Yeah. So who else? Who else do you think is doing good work? Do you think? Can you think of anybody who's doing good work out there that I might know about?
There is one political party that are
Go on.
doing fantastic work at the moment, and they have sensible policies. The British Democrat Party. There's people in that party that are very serious, you know, and they're decent people that just want what is best for our people, that have got some good intentions. And I've never actually experienced anything that's villainous from anyone in the British Democrat Party. They always seem to come across as just people that want to help people. There was a councillor actually. One of their councillors was actually cleaning out one of his constituencies. They took it on themselves to, because the area was kind of, a lot of it was being neglected. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of rubbish and things like that, and they went around helping people and clearing out that people, and they generally care for people. That is the only real political party that I'm aware of that I know people from, and that I've had experiences with talking to them and things like that, I know them from the past as well. That are good, but I believe there's many political parties out there that have good intentions. That there are some political parties that have good intentions, but I just think at the moment we need to be realistic of what is causing the real problem, and obviously using that solution of right well-being to fix those problems, by going free from this poisonous ideology that is infecting us all. Because I don't think, and that's good, because the thing is, when people start to understand about the moral concepts and things like that, it will create good political parties too. The problem that the UK has had for a very long time is a lot of political parties on the right and the left have destroyed themselves, mainly through people that are acting out. Often people that feel completely hopeless. People that feel like there's no hope left, and they feel angry and they just want to lash out and harm other people.
Yeah.
And obviously those political parties get tarnished because of that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That needs to go. The only way that can go is by people not doing that and living life in a positive way. It's not going to cause any harm to themselves or anyone else, and to live in a morally good way of life, really, and think in a moral positive way. I believe if people can adopt the lexicon of no white guilt, there'll be many successful political parties. Absolutely, I completely agree with that. But the thing is, the problem is ego. There's a lot of people that have a lot of ego, and we want to do what we've always done for the last 30 years. We want to do it our way. So if we look at the United Kingdom, it's like 20 different nationalist parties. Do you know what I mean? And it's like,
yeah, this is what I was going to say.
wow.
Like, you brought up the British Democrats, but that, to me, just looking at it, looks like such a micro party. I just think, oh, what is even the point? I mean, get back to me when you've won something.
Well, they have won elections, council
Have they?
elections, and that's the
Oh,
thing.
right,
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. I mean, they've obviously not won as many as, as a Reform Party, because the Reform Party are pretty much kind of like a populist party, really. So they're not really serious about stopping anti-whiteism or anything like that. They're not really serious about that. But like I say, to everything and to everyone, in order for any political party to be successful, unless our people on the ground that are going to vote for them go free from the white guilt and everything, no one's going to vote for them, because it's like they're just going to vote for these anti-white political parties, that are destroying the United Kingdom. So policies can only change when ideology changes, and when we can start looking at the real issues that the West is facing right now. It's like trying to build something without a foundation. It won't work, and that is what I've experienced throughout the many years within British nationalism,
Sure.
especially. I think the main important thing right now is for our people to come together, as a community, really, and start building on that. I think
Well,
once that happens, I think.
I was just going to say, I agree with you, right? I mean, the thing that attracted me into this scene in the first place was like being given the license to shake off political correctness. It was like this I don't know, this disease that I had, and I looked around and I couldn't like diagnose what the problems were, but I felt weird about society. I could, I all the symptoms were there, but I couldn't put two and two together. And then I don't know what it was. Listening to a few people, gradually, I kind of, I don't know, the scales were burnt from my eyes, and suddenly I was like given this license to not be politically correct anymore, to realize what this stuff is. God forbid, I don't know, be a young little, maybe, God forbid, racially aware guy on the internet. And some people can take it too far. Some people, you can get a little bit carried away with yourself, can't you? What do you think about young people who get a little bit carried away? They imbibe too many 4chan memes, and they go and I don't know, they have sympathies with like 1930s Germany, and they start doing all that kind of stuff. I'm guessing you think that is completely the wrong path, right?
Absolutely. I would say to those people, do not get involved, because it doesn't serve the well-being of our people. It will, and 99% of the times, they'll end up in prison, probably for the rest of their lives. And
Yeah.
those people that feel such a hopeless, that are being rendered into such a hopeless state of mind, do not do it. I'd say to them people, do not commit any acts of violence towards anyone on the basis of their birth. Don't discriminate against anyone on the basis of their birth, because all that does is it feeds the anti-white narrative, which puts us people as the villains, and non-white anti-whites as the heroes. And as long as that narrative which is pumped out through the media, continues, our people will always face discrimination. It actually empowers them to do that. So if you believe that it's not okay for a little white child, an English child, to be taught that his ancestors are evil, and that they should feel guilty for who they are, don't feed into that narrative that empowers them to do that. Them people should. I don't think that ideology is fit for our people. I think it's sick. I think it's twisted, and it's failed. I think it's a lot of these people that think about this. A lot of them are living in almost like a movie. Do you know what I mean? They don't live in reality, and it's like they've been consumed with this movie within their heads, and they think that somehow a 1933, Third Reich is gonna change the world. It's absolutely insanity to think like that. I just when I think about it, I just think you're just living in fantasy. We're faced with a reality right now, where the demographics have changed. We're being faced with white erasure. We cannot add the fuel to the fire that's basically the ideology that's responsible, for the victimization of our own people. We can't do that.
Well, I'm with you there. So we have to stop being idiots, right? That's the message. We have to stop being idiots.
I'd say to the young men, be a real man, grow up, and be responsible. Don't get involved with these Nazi crackpots. I know that the anti-whites like to use the word Nazi basically for anyone who wants what is best for the well-being of our people. But going out there and committing acts of crime and things like that isn't going to do anything good. I think that is going to do far worse.
Sure,
and it's nothing like being in prison.
The leftist call everybody, vaguely right-wing Nazis. I get it, but then there are people who do have the Third Reich sympathies. There are let's be honest, there are these people who they've imbibed the 4chan memes. They think it's edgy. A lot of these people are just misfits, marginalized people. They're looking for something edgy they see what's going on, and they end up dragged down the wrong path, don't they? But it does usually blow up in your face. It does usually end up with some kind of police record. It's usually not legal in your country. It's also based on something that ended up, leading to the death of millions of European people. Whatever you believe that, the causes of it were at the time. And we're not there. This, it's for another time. That was of another age. Absolutely.
Absolutely, and obviously, millions and millions and millions and millions of European men were killed. They killed each other. And in a war that shouldn't have even happened. But I don't really want to get into the politics of everything about that. I just think the most important thing right now is the well-being of our people. And the last thing that our people need is to get arrested and go down a long, dark road, because it's a long road and it's a dark road that only leads to the destruction of our people. But, I believe young people need to be a little bit more mature, be sensible, and work towards getting a job, you know what I mean, and building a family and having a relationship and doing something productive, that's going to bring positivity to your lives. That is the most positive thing that I can tell any young person, and get to know who your people are, meet people, socialize with sensible people, that want what's good for white well-being. Loving our own people isn't hating others. Someone always taught me that loving our own people doesn't mean we hate other people. Don't have to hate other people. We might be angry at them. We might, but a lot of non-whites are collateral damage to these anti-white policies. They often end up collateral damage. You know what I mean? And that's what they are, really. Yeah.
How so? How so? What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean is that obviously when non-whites, that they come to our countries and things like that, you know what I mean, and then because of government policies, anti-white policies that have brought them here, they come here, and then they're attacked on the basis of their birth, by someone.
Do you think that our where do you stand on why all this is happening? Do you think that there is like hidden hands attempting to bring about white erasure in a conspiratorial sense, or do you think that this is all a product of processes, the economy, globalism, like Curtis Yarvin would say, like the cathedrals just like playing itself out, and there's nobody at the top? Or do you think it's an organized conspiracy?
You have extremely very powerful anti-whites in government and anti-white elites. People that are, whatever that means, people that are the elite at being anti-white, that hate Western kind so much that they'd want to destroy it. But then we have our own people as well that also hate Western kind, that they want to erase their own culture and history and everything. So I believe that there is anti-whites in high places of power that have been given high places of power. Absolutely, there's anti-white Jewish people in high places of power. There's anti-white Arabs in high places of power. There's anti-white whites in high places of power. So the idea that it's just one race that's doing it all, there might be a small group of individuals that have participated into anti-whiteism quite a lot, but at the end of the day, how do you measure it? Because the end result and the end conclusion is the victimization of our people. So really, they're anti-white by way of nobody's anti-white by way of a mutual characteristics and race and sex or gender, even for that matter. People are anti-white because they choose to be, whether regardless of what ethnic background they're from. But there are some institutions, that do cause harm to our people. I mean, look, for example, look at the war in Russia and things like that. Obviously you've got anti-whites in NATO and many institutions that just want to, continue the forever wars and sacrifice millions and millions of Europeans at the altar for their own financial gain. You know, so there is a lot of that as well. Yeah, absolutely. I don't really want to go into it all, but people will make their assumptions and blame a Pacific race for it. But the bottom line is, if you're anti-white, you choose to be that way, regardless of what race you are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Before we wrap up, then, what do you think about what have you seen the hoo-ha on Twitter right now that's going on about H-1B visas? So we have we have Trump in power, Trump about to enter office. Now, before he's got inaugurated, Elon Musk has now come out that he wants to like maximize H-1B visas to import skilled labor into America. Do you think that Elon Musk is infected with anti-whiteism, or is just like a 90s
Absolutely,
or
100%.
80s liberal? You do? Do you think it's a white
thing is, we've got to
guilt
understand.
or what?
I do, and I think Elon Musk has got a lot of white guilt, and the reason why I know that is because his ancestors lived in South Africa for many years, and his ancestors went through some of the most horrific anti-white violent crimes you could ever imagine. His ancestors and his people, South Africans, currently right now are being attacked on an unprecedented level that no one talks about because the anti-white media silenced them. So he's grown up with a lot of white guilt. He's grown up and he's been taught that his ancestors were evil, and all of that. So yeah, he's grown up with an ideology right now, and that ideology is coming out sideways. So when he talks about basically wanting to bring Indians and not other races of man, non-whites, into America, to take the positions that the American people can do already. He talks about bringing skilled people into the labor force.
Yeah.
But when an American looks at that, they think, "What? Aren't I skilled enough?" It's dehumanizing the American people into thinking, "Oh, well, I'm not enough." But that Indian is enough. He's got better skills, a better skill set than I have, which is false. If you think about the way that America was founded, it was founded by courageous men and women who, embarked on an incredible journey, that founded America, and their constitution, and built one of the greatest civilizations the planet has ever known, obviously including the British Empire. Not to say that anybody else's civilization is any better, but what I am saying is that there's no shortage of skilled people in America. There's no shortage of skilled people in Europe. Every single one of our inventions were invented by, people that were highly intelligent, people that had an extremely high skill set. I think if he's going to do anything, he probably needs to start bringing, allowing Europeans to have visas. I know people in England that have been waiting 15 years to get into America. 15 years, and they're letting, Indians and other
all
people
the world in. Yeah.
Yeah, plus the illegal migration as well. And so DEI in the workplace it's white eraser, basically. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Because it means less jobs for white people and more jobs for non-whites. But eventually, if that trend continues, there'll be no non-whites working.
Yeah, there was an interesting space last night with Adrian Dittman. People believe this is like Elon Musk in another account. I don't believe it is. But and Keith Woods and they talked about this issue last night. It's here. I reposted it. It's on my profile. If anybody wants to go back and listen to it, it's 58 minutes, right? And look, what struck me about this debate is that I feel like we have been a little bit mistaken and got a little bit carried away with just how much we've convinced like these tech bros of our ideas. I feel like we were all carried away on Twitter thinking like, certainly me a bit, Elon Musk and these tech bros are like our guys now, and they've like woken up and they must be aware of our memes. And what came across in this discussion was like Adrian Dittman saying to like Keith Woods, "You're a racist. You're a racist for opposing H-1B visas." And Keith Woods is like, "No, I'm not. I'm just like concerned about white erasure and like why these jobs aren't going to white people. Americans who who deserve these jobs. We deserve sovereignty in our own homelands." And he's like, "You're just a racist." And I was like, "There's so much more work to do. There's so much more work to do with these people." It's really interesting to listen to.
I watched Keith. I think Keith is a very good man, and I admire every single aspect of his work that he's doing. He's absolutely an inspiration to the Irish people, and he's brought about an awakening, for the Irish people. And I admire the Irish people. They've suffered a lot, and I hope that they find freedom one day. But I believe that Keith, if he'd have used the moral concepts of Go Free, I believe that he could have countered a lot of the anti-white attacks and slurs, that guy was using, because he was attempting to demoralize Keith just for simply standing up for his own people.
Yeah,
and
yes.
It's absolutely sickening.
It's a very interesting space. I recommend everybody go and listen to it. I reposted it. It's a couple of tweets down on my page.
Absolutely, and I think Keith.
It shows us that we've got more work to do, doesn't it? We've got more work to do to convince these people.
It does, but I think if Keith could use the concepts of Go Free, I'm telling you, he'll inspire so many more people. He'll touch the hearts of many Irish people, especially, and he'll awaken those people, because he'll have a defence. But I don't want to question Keith's work, because I think he's a good guy. I think he means well, and I give him my 100% respect, for what he's doing, but that other guy,
he did, yeah.
The other guy that was attacking him. He's just a vile, sick, twisted anti-white, and he doesn't want. He doesn't care. He only wants to discriminate against Keith because he's standing up for our people. Basically, that's why.
Yeah. Yeah. The takeaway I got from it, just to repeat again, was that Keith and I know the people that they're mistaken as to how much they've got their memes through. More work is to be done. But let me read this super chat. Paddy Irishman says, "Thanks for doing these streams, SJJ. I had no idea SJJMAS was a thing until a few nights ago." Well, you found it now, so welcome. For shame, he says. "I've been listening on and off to that other Yule show. Credit to you, this is far superior." So I appreciate that. That's very, very kind of someone to say. So definitely appreciate that. Look, I need to wrap up. Æthelred, you've been a very interesting guest. Here's a compliment for you. In a way, you reminded me a bit of Jonathan Bowden. Okay, in like some of your rhetoric, how you're speaking, like clairvoyancing, like this stuff. So, is there anything that you'd like to tell people on the way out?
Yeah, I guess a lot of people have said that because I follow the same faith as Jonathan Bowden. I actually met Jonathan Bowden, and I'm an Odinist, so I'm an English pagan, and I follow the ancestral ways of my folk, which I've been discriminated against a lot, to be honest with you. But I just wanted to say to people, if you're listening, and especially the English people right now and the Irish, if you're listening, right, and the German people as well, because there's a violent anti-white attack in Germany that took place that killed 11 people and injured 82 people. I'm saying to everyone right now, do not give up hope. Do never, ever, ever give up hope, because there's hope for our people. Stay with us. Make a decision now that you will not betray your ancestors, and that you will love your ancestors and honor them, because the future generations are depending on you right now. And with that, I'm going to say to everyone, check out No White Guilt, go 3, and let's come together. All right, let's stop these wars and let's form something beautiful and go 3 from this anti-white sickness that is plaguing Western kind. Thank you for allowing me to speak. It's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. And I wish you a Merry Yule or Christmas, whichever faith you practice. And with that, have a good evening.
All right, thank you, everybody. This has been SJJMAS number 33. Æthelred's X profile link is in the description. Go and give him a follow. And Merry Christmas. Thanks for being here. And I will see you tomorrow for the final day of SJJMAS. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Hello, Odin.